I want to give you, another example just of how something that seems simple can be very thoroughly analyzed. And what we're going to be looking at today is Jump Mama by Curtis Lampkin. And I'm only going to analyze because this is one of the ones that you can write an essay over. So I don't want to analyze the entire thing for you, but I just want to at least get the title in the first stanza. So, well, maybe the title in the first two stanzas here so that you can see exactly how complex something, as simple as this can be. All right, so we start with the title, of course, Jump Mama. All right, so you have to automatically, take a word and just really tear it down as much as you can. Okay, jump. What is jump? Obviously we know, jump in the air. Okay, so let's think about all our associations that we have with the word jump. Jump for joy, jump for excitement, jumping in athletics, jump to conclusions, jump ahead, jump up, for Jesus, stuff like that, right? All things that convey action and excitement and, usually nothing negative except for jump to conclusions, which is interesting because we're going to get all of these things in the poem. We also have mama instead of mother. And mama, is more colloquial. One thing I can tell you about this author is he has poetry that is Afrocentric, meaning directed around the experience of the African American. And so his subject matter, and a lot of his colloquial sayings and very dialogue driven poems, kind of reflect that. And but the great thing about Curtis Lampkin is like as a writer, as a reader of poetry, even though I may not be African American, I can still really get into his poems because they're so accessible, and the root or the heart meanings of them kind of can be applied to everyone, even though they're Afrocentric poems, which is which is which is what good authors do. Mama is very colloquial, very dialogue, very informal, as opposed to mother. So we get the idea that there's a certain laid backness to it. Okay, all right, that's just the title. So Jump Mama. We don't know how that really plays yet, or but we'll find out. Okay, so pretty summer day, 3 words. Already they start to convey tone and setting. You know, uh, summer. Kids are out of school. It's hot. You know, people are out. Enjoying being out of school, playing, doing stuff. People are going to beaches. It's summer. People also get ill in the summer, but that poem's not really about that. All right, next line. Grandmama, again, very colloquial, very dialogue very laid back, sitting on her porch. Easy. And, the line break there after porch, so that you have easy by itself in one line, as its own line, slows the poem down. And that's very intentional. And so that's how you can talk about structure and not just the actual words, but structure. Also, leaving the G off on sitting, again, makes it very southern, very colloquial. All right. So again, just laid back, grandmama, again, very, very comforting, very non-threatening. Again, this easy day. She's on the porch rocking her grandbaby in her wide lap. And again, we're missing that G and we have grandbaby. And again, this is very safe, warm setting that's being established through this character of the grandmother. And specifically, when you see a word jump in there like wide, that was specifically chosen and included by the author, you need to think about, what all it entails. And, if you read enough poetry, I'll just go ahead and tell you, you may not know this, but if you read enough poetry, there is a history with women, and particularly African American women, having pride in wide hips. Maya Angelou has a poem. Lucille Clifton, Rita Dove. I mean, just tons of Patricia Smith. Like tons of these authors have have poems about hips and pride, in that wideness. And it also creates softness. I mean, it feels like a bony, skinny, knee blade bone sticking out thing. It wouldn't have that comforting feel. Again, another comforting image. That rocking chair is laid back too, very southern. Old men sitting in their Lincolns, a couple old men sitting, 3, 4 old men sitting around a Lincoln listening to a ball game or something, and they're tasting and talking and talking and tasting. And that rhythm, and the repetition of tasting and talking and all that alliteration, that's starting to build in this poem with repeated consonant and vowel sounds, it gives it this laid back summer feeling, guys sitting around drinking a little, sipping on whiskey or a little tea, something, and, enjoying the game. And then you got, down the streets, so we're starting to really take in this setting. Young boys on the corner milking a yak, wild hands, baggy pants. And so we got some, and this is where the Afrocentric element becomes most apparent, or first apparent in the poem. And so you got some guys with kind of baggy pants, and they're talking with their hands. And I asked Curtis, I know this guy, so I asked Curtis one time, what's milking a yak? And he said that's when you're drinking a 40, sipping on a 40. Anyways, another positive image: young girls halfway up the block, jumping that double dutch, singing their song, and you get this. They're kind of the idea of them skipping rope and double dutch is kind of the focus of the poem. Them and the comparison between them and the young woman. So we have this song, this Kenny Conopala song, which is very specific. If you grew up in Macon, there'll be like maybe different words, but the same song or account or whatever. But this is a song that's particular to around Charleston, South Carolina, or somewhere around South Carolina. All right, so we get this song, which ironically is about, getting to school on time, something they don't have to worry about. And then there's a stanza break. And, anytime there's a stanza break, it usually signifies change. So we have the central focus of this poem, young woman appear, dragging herself heavy home from work. You got to read this thing out loud if you really want to hear the sounds and what it really tells you about the poem. Round the corner comes this young woman, dragging herself heavy home from work. She sees young boys, sees the old men, but when she sees the girl, she just starts smiling. And you can hear how that rhythm changes with she sees the girl, she just starts smiling. And and there's the stresses on syllables have moved there. There's a lot of alliteration with words that are, letters that are said really quickly, both vowels and consonants in there that speed it up. And it shows you that, she shows up as the first kind of negative thing, not that she's negative, just that she's tired and weary. And it's the girls that she sees, and she is immediately excluded. She says, let me get a little bit of that. And again, it's the dialogue. They say, you can't jump, you too old. Anyways, okay. So as you can see, as I kind of analyze these things, you have the alliteration of the H's and, in heavy home from work. You have the choice in the line break. She sees the young boys, line break, which creates a pause. Sees the old men, line break, which creates a pause. Where she chooses to create these line breaks, where Curtis Lampkin chooses to put these line breaks, also affects the rhythm of the poem, just like the alliteration, and the stanza breaks an even longer pause after you too old, it's like a slap in the face. It's a long pause. And then she's like, why they say that? Oh, why they say that? It's kind of inner monologue there. All these decisions create this rhythm in this poem that has no punctuation, hardly any punctuation. So these line breaks and the words chosen and how quick they are to pronounce, and that's what creates rhythm here. Anyways, this next part, as you can see, she's both literally and metaphorically deburdening herself of all these bags and responsibilities. But that I just wanted to give you just a little bit, and you have to do the rest of the analysis on your own. You have to learn how to how to look for these things and ask yourself these basic questions. Why did the author put it here? What is it doing? And how does it help make the point of the poem? And, what is this word doing? What other meanings does it have? Those kind of questions help you to figure this stuff out.